This is a continuation of 6-9. It is multiplying decimals. This time it's going to be by shifting the decimal point. Previously, we multiplied decimals by estimating. We have a different strategy today. The idea is for you to make a choice. If you didn't love the estimation strategy, perhaps you like this one today called shifting the decimal point. Okay, so we're going to start with the same example question that I used for the first part of the lesson, which is 12.6 times 2.75. And in order to do the shifting decimal point strategy, we have to remember this one thing, that anytime we multiply by a power of 10, let's say we multiply by 10 to the power of 4, for instance. Every time we multiply by a power of 10, do you guys remember what happens to the decimal point? If you don't, here's your answer. Whatever this exponent is, you're going to move the decimal point that many places to the right. When you're multiplying, you shift the decimal to the right by whatever your exponent is here. Okay? So in the instance of 12.6, if we multiplied him by the power of 4 by 10 to the power of 4, that means we'd have to take this decimal here and move them how many places? This many, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what do we put in those empty clouds? We put zeros. So really, if we multiplied 12.6 times 10 to the 4th power, your answer is going to end up being 126,000. Okay, so keep in mind, when you multiply by a power of 10, you're going to shift the decimal that many places to the right. So with that in mind, I have a challenge for you for this shifting decimal point strategy. To begin this whole process, we need to find a way to multiply each of these numbers by a certain power of 10 that will turn them into whole numbers. For instance, my question to you is, how many places do we need to move this decimal point to make him a whole number? For instance, 126 is a whole number. So where would we have to, or how many places would we have to move this decimal point to make him 126? And if you look, we only need to move him one spot. So that means if we take 12.6, let me check, make sure I'm still on the screen. I am. 12.6 times 10 to the 1st power, that will mean we move the decimal one spot to the right, and suddenly 12.6 becomes 126. Now let's take a look at 2.75. How many place values would this decimal point have to move to turn him into a whole number? And you can test it out with your pencil. You can go, oh, there's 1, and that's 27.5. That's still not a whole number. But if we go one more time, that would put us at 275, which is a big number, but it's a whole number. So we can go ahead and, how many places was that? 1, 2. So that means if we take 2.75 and multiply him by 10 to the, we said 2 place values, so that'd be 10 to the 2nd power, that would give us 275. Okay. Now, what we need to remember are the exponents that we use. We're going to use those guys later. Hang in there. Okay, so the first step was to make these guys into whole numbers using powers of 10. The next step, multiply. What is 126 times 175? And I think we already solved this one. Actually, I don't know if we did this big of one. yesterday. I think we had it broken down into a different format, or I could be just losing my mind. But in the interest of time, because I can see we're at 5 minutes already, if you need some multiplication strategies, you can check yesterday's or part 1 of this lesson for strategies of how to solve this. I'm going to go ahead and, just for us today, I'm going to multiply this using my computer calculator. And if we multiply these two together, 126 times 275, you get 34,650. Okay, could be tempting to say, all right, I'm done. 12.6 times 2.75 equals 34,650. Not so fast. We have one final step. Do you remember how we used powers of 10 to turn our guys into whole numbers? We shifted the decimal point one place for 12.6, and we shifted them 2 places for 2.75. Well, now we have to undo that. Okay, so what you want to do is add up these exponents. What is 1 plus 2? That's 3. So we made 3 moves to the right total. We need to undo that. So here's our decimal after moving 3 places. We need to move him back 3 places. So go ahead and go 1, 2, 3. And this is where your final decimal will go. So your answer is not 34,650. In fact, it's going to be 34.650, also known as 34 and 65 hundredths. Okay, so to review, and this is shown on page 220, here's the process in slow motion. Multiply both factors by a power of 10 to make them whole numbers. Then multiply those whole numbers. You can do that using traditional multiplication or lattice. I would like you to practice the multiplications instead of just putting it into a calculator. And then number 3, undo the multiplication by powers of 10 by dividing the product by the same powers of 10. That's the most confusing part. Basically, it means whatever powers you used, whatever positions, if you moved 3 spots to the right total, you just need to move 3 spots back left when you're done. Just get rid of it. So if you would like one more quick example, let's take a look at 76.1 times 9.6. What would we have to multiply? What power of 10 would we have to multiply 76.1? What we have to multiply him by in order to turn him into a whole number? Well, I can tell our decimal point needs to move 1 place to turn into a whole number. So that means your power could be to the power of 1. That would turn him into 761. And then how many places does our 9.6 decimal need to move? And it's still just 1. So again, it'll be power of 1. So what you guys will need to do, where I'm going to leave you off, you'll need to do 761 times 96 using lattice or traditional. You're going to get yourself a pretty huge answer. And then the third step, that complicated step, look at your exponents, 1 and 1. We moved a total of twice 2 spots to the right. So at the very end, you need to move 2 spots back to the left. So take your whole number answer, move that decimal point back 2 places. If this made your brain explode, understood. This is a tough lesson. We're getting into some real deal stuff. Things that I probably didn't see until middle school when I came through. So don't sweat it too hard. Use your resources, your internet, rewatch this video, freeze frame it, whatever you need to do. this will click. If you stick with it, it'll click. You just have to hang in there. If it's too rough, maybe take a break, come back to it. And as always, any questions or follow-up, feel free to let me know. Also, I've never noticed this before, but this is for my whole class here. I've never noticed this whole thing in the upper right corner. Did you ever notice that there's a calculator with a line through it? That means they prefer you don't use a calculator, which means I broke the rules. My apologies. Anyway, questions, comments, let me know. Give it your best shot. See you guys.